right, you guys, as you can see by the thumbnail, I'm back with another one like the other one. So check it out, you guys. I got another short story for you. This story is about a case that happened in 2015. It's basically about a scandal that took place within the Orange County District Attorney's Office. At the time, Scott DeCry was a defendant in a high-profile case out there. This is one of those cases that ended up affecting a lot of other cases that were happening in that county at that time. So without further ado, let me get straight into it. So like I said, this story is about a scandal that took place in 2015 that involved the Orange County District Attorney's Office. I want to say that the name of the district attorney that was involved in this scandal was Tony Rakakis, who's now one of the head DAs. So it was a case that involved prosecutorial misconduct, and I want to say that 18 cases were affected by it. They were either reversed or they were brought back for resentencing. I actually remember when this story broke because the district attorney for Orange County was at the center of this scandal. There was a landslide of previously convicted inmates from Orange County that stood to benefit from it. One of the main convictions that was at the center of this scandal was a 2010 gang murder, where an individual by the name of Leonel Vega, who also went by the street moniker Shorty, allegedly chased down one of his victims and shot him in the head. The issue here wasn't whether or not Shorty was innocent or guilty. His lawyers had basically conceded on that point, and this wasn't in contention. This was more about how the Orange County District Attorney's Office was going to be censured for unethical practices related to information they gathered from informants, and how this case was going to impact prior convictions. Whenever a district attorney gets caught for violating some type of unethical standards, this ends up becoming the basis for reversal or having the entire case thrown out in the best interest of justice. A lot of the time, the district attorney would rather throw a case out opposed to continuing to litigate it and possibly having to go through the embarrassment of exposing what it was that the district attorney violated. In this case, the district attorney, the one that was at the center of this scandal, Tony Rakakis, and Shorty's defense attorney, Todd Melnick, agreed to a sentencing stipulation that would basically chop Shorty's life sentence down to 15 years. I'll get to what that violation consisted of and how it all happened in a minute. This put Shorty in a position to where he was possibly going to be eligible for parole by 2019. So he basically went from a life sentence to looking at another 4 years. So at issue here was basically Orange County's district attorney surreptitious use of jailhouse informants and how they were eliciting confessions from other inmates it was targeting. This basically amounted to a constitutional violation. And keep in mind, this wasn't the first time the Orange County District Attorney found itself in hot water over the same issue either. Later, after this case, it found itself in even a bigger scandal in a high-profile case involving Scott DeCry, who casually and allegedly walked into a Seal Beach beauty salon and gunned down his ex-wife and 7 other people in a pent-up fit of rage. And this ended up being one of the worst mass shootings in Orange County history. But this scandal actually ended up being a bigger scandal than the one involving Shorty. So at the time, the district attorney was strategically moving some of his confidential informants around in the jail for the specific purpose of gathering information on some of Orange County's biggest cases. Scott DeCry was one of them. So you got to understand that in order for the district attorney to be moving inmates around in the county jail, they had to be working hand in hand with the jail's classification unit, something that was considered to be highly uncharacteristic. They had entire tanks in the jail that were referred to as snitch tanks, housing units that the district attorney was using to give itself a better chance of having success getting at their targets. In other words, if they had a target in a high-profile case, they would move that individual in one of these tanks around several confidential informants, and they would direct these confidential informants to gather information about this individual's case, something that they're not supposed to do. And this is a clear ethical violation. I'm going to be running another story in a couple of weeks on a big case that involved a Perkins operation. So you guys might want to check that out. That case right there and how the Perkins operation is broke down, like I said, it basically defines how confidential informants can be used in these type of custodial operations and what the do's and don'ts are. There's a clear legal standard that must be followed. Otherwise, the case can be thrown out under what's called the fruits of the poisonous tree doctrine. Anyways, from what I remember, there was close to 18 convictions that were overturned as a result of this scandal. And this is something that's still going on to this day. It also resulted in the Orange County District Attorney's Office giving out what are referred to as sweetheart plea deals to some of the same jailhouse informants that they used in some of these high-profile cases. Two that I can remember in particular were Oscar Morial and Fernando Perez. But the case most people seem to be incensed about is the case that involved Shorty, who had life without the possibility of parole chopped down to 15 years. All behind the misuse of confidential informants, the way that they gathered this information, and constitutional violations. So even though the Orange County District Attorney essentially brings these kinds of situations on itself, where it's forced into cutting plea deals with individuals that they consider to be undesirables, the Deputy District Attorney for Orange County found a way to spin this up so that they could save face and maintain their credibility. So as soon as the media started headlining this story, the Deputy District Attorney did a media blitz that same day and basically said that this wasn't a black eye at all. And in fact, they said it was just the opposite. They basically said that this deal that they made with Shorty is a clear example of how far their office is willing to go to police its own and hold those accountable who break the rules. Basically saying that we'll go as far as throwing out an open and shut 187 case when it comes to holding our office accountable for any acts of misconduct that it finds out about. It sounds like a bunch of horse feathers to me. But then again, when it comes to being reelected or saving their jobs, they'll just about say or do anything. And this story right here, it proves that that's exactly what they did. In Shorty's case, the district attorney broke all the rules. Allegedly, a Santa Ana police detective apparently prompted a jailhouse informant to elicit information from Shorty without disclosing it to prosecutors. So the informant testified at Shorty's trial, helping to secure the conviction. And of course, the detective who planned the use of the informant is now retired. And this caused all kinds of problems. Constitutional violations, Brady violations, evidence code violations, etc., etc. But trip out. I've heard of them offering people deals for the purpose of reduction of time or changing the sentencing guidelines to accommodate a plea offer. But this informant was apparently offered assistance in getting into the military. I've heard of some other crazy stories before when it's come to the bartering between cops and their CIs, where they were offered food, porn, tobacco, music downloaded on an iPod, and other things. But getting help enlisting in the military, that ranks somewhere close to the top. That's pretty crazy. It's just almost unheard of. I don't think I've ever heard another situation where something like that has ever happened before in the past. In fact, besides some of the fallout that was created by the Decry case in September of last year, another gang member named Isaac Palacios, who they called Sneaks, admitted in open court that he shot a rival gang member 15 times. Sneaks was then released from the county jail within hours of rendering this open court confession due to problems that were raised about one of their confidential informants. So the misconduct wasn't just an isolated incident. This was a pattern that the Orange County District Attorney operated under, making its own rules as it went. So Scott Decry's attorney is also representing another high-profile defendant named Daniel Wisnowski, who was convicted of a double homicide in Long Beach as well. That case might also be in jeopardy behind the same acts of prosecutorial misconduct. What do you guys think about this? When a district attorney gets caught for some type of prosecutorial misconduct, gross prosecutorial misconduct, what do you think is the best way to deal with him? By censuring him or having a number of his past cases overturned or reversed? Give me your thoughts on this. Drop a comment and let me know what you guys think. Anyways, this was just a quick story that I thought some of you guys might be interested in. Like I said, it's a little different from some of my other stories, but don't trip. I got a bunch of other stories coming and I'm working on them right now. I'll start previewing them as I put these stories out so you guys can see what they're about. Anyways, I've also got another interview coming up, hopefully sometime this week, with the individual that jumped on Scott Peterson. That should be an interesting story, and I'm looking forward to interviewing this guy. I got some hard questions that I want to ask him. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Paradigm Profiles. If you guys like this episode, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this episode, give it a thumbs down. But either way, drop a comment and let me know what you think. As always, I just want to thank those of you who continue to show your unwavering support and those of you who continue to tap into the channel. On that note there, you guys enjoy the rest of your day and keep pushing that positivity. Until the next one, this is your boy B, and I'm gone.